The dark green forest, with occasional clearings, was flashing by. Toma, resting her head on her fist, gloomily watched this boring movie through the car window. Her mother glanced at her through the rearview mirror. "Straighten up your face," she ordered in a heavy voice. "You're going to Aunt Nina's party, not a funeral." Toma's expression didn't change. She only shifted her position and unlocked her phone. This day had been going wrong from the start. In the morning, the guy at school ignored her and later texted her that they were breaking up, without even granting her a personal conversation, or at least a simple, humane phrase like, "You'll definitely be happy." Not even an explanation of why. No, he just pretended she didn't exist. She didn't have to worry about her final math test. She was going to fail. In this state, she couldn't focus. It was just a pity that she would disappoint the teacher, whom she respected as a person and an educator. At home, the girl discovered that her pet rat Chica had been eaten by the cat, who somehow got into her room and opened the cage. Then her mother finished her off with the news that they were going to Aunt Nina's birthday party, her grandmother's sister. When Toma asked to be left at home and given some time alone, her mother threw a fit, claiming that no love could exist at 14, and told her daughter to stop making things up, dress nicely, and get ready to go. Despite her mother, Toma put on black pants and a black shirt, let her dark hair down, and wore black earrings. Seeing this funereal look, her mother unleashed a second wave of anger. But the girl issued an ultimatum. Either she goes like this or not at all. She was in the mood to turn off her phone and run away from home. But her mother reached the peak of her displeasure, reminding her daughter that she owned nothing here, so she could go wherever she wanted and not come back, but leave everything bought with her parents' money. Toma fell into despair and got into the car like a limp jellyfish. The day was drawing to a close. The car was speeding down the road. Tamara silently listened to her mother's brief reprimands, knowing that responding was pointless. Everything around was pointless. The forest, the road, the party. Toma opened her messenger, repeatedly scrolling through the conversation with her ex-boyfriend, staring in disbelief at this strange, alien, and somehow wrong message. "We are breaking up." Could Misha really have written that? She pondered why it happened. Yes, Misha had repeatedly told her that she didn't smile enough and lacked lightness. Toma sighed. She didn't understand why she should smile if people didn't like it. When she was a child, her mom had called her a frivolous fool because she laughed all the time and paid attention to everything. Apparently, her mom was annoyed by the sound of her laughter, and she herself usually had such a face as if she had never smiled. Grandma would disapprove if her granddaughter dared to laugh at the dinner table for no reason. Laughter without reason is a sign of foolishness, folk wisdom said. So over time, Toma stopped smiling. There were no reasons. She couldn't cry either, because another piece of folk wisdom, voiced by that very Aunt Nina, said, "Crying is not pretty. I don't need a daughter like that. My daughter doesn't cry over nonsense," her mother added. When Toma grew older, her mother stopped liking her sad face that neither laughed nor cried. The family started demanding smiles when needed and sadness when needed. The girl, who didn't understand when she was allowed to show emotions and when not, got confused and stopped showing them altogether, bottling up all her feelings. You couldn't cry, and you couldn't laugh just because. Who could understand these adults? In the car, her mother made a comment every 10 minutes about her gloomy face, and Toma couldn't understand why she should smile if she was sad and wanted to cry. "Stop whining already." Her mother started raising her voice, noticing a tiny tear rolling down her daughter's cheek. "Are you going to congratulate Aunt Nina like this? What will they think of us?" People should learn to think well of each other, or at least with understanding. It's the 21st century, the girl noted grimly, wiping away the tear, but said nothing out loud. She would say it later, when she was 18. The forest finally ended, as did the sunny day. The sun was smoldering on the horizon, and small private houses were darkening ahead, one of which was where her grandmother, grandfather, and Aunt Nina were waiting for them. Toma took a deep breath, and with it gathered all her patience. She was in far one of those family gatherings that always ended with discussions of her shortcomings. The car pulled up to one of the outer two-story houses, which was separated from the forest by a low fence. Turning off the engine, her mother jingled the keys, rummaged through the bags on the passenger seat, and sternly commanded, "Get out." Toma silently obeyed. The small greenhouse greeted them with yellow windows, an open door to the vestibule, and the barking of a dog on a chain. Grandma appeared on the threshold with open arms. "And here comes my favorite granddaughter," she clucked, coming out to meet them. Favorite granddaughters aren't humiliated and beaten with belts, Toma thought grimly. The saccharine greeting made her wince for a moment. She turned away when Grandma Sveta started kissing her. "Come in, the table is already set." The elderly woman, with the grace of a goose, hobbled into the house. "Behave yourself," her mother hissed through her teeth, tugging her daughter's sleeve, and followed her grandmother. What does normal mean? If only they would explain it, Toma thought, glaring after her. Normal meant laughing and crying on cue from others. The girl forced a smile and stepped over the threshold. The smell of mayonnaise-laden salads, fried meat, and compote hit her nose. A TV blared on the side table, and under Grandpa's feet, a fat cat yelled miserably. Grandpa, a thin man with thick eyebrows and a mustache, was smoking by the wide-open window, flicking ashes outside. "And here we are," her mother exclaimed with forced cheer. "Aunt Nina, happy birthday. We wish you." And she began listing the standard set of wishes that usually make up a congratulation. Toma almost rolled her eyes but restrained herself. She merely muttered a brief happy birthday. "Well, sit down at the table," Grandpa rumbled. "Sit, sit. What will you drink, Vika?" "We'll pour compote for Tomka," Aunt Nina fussed. They seated Tamara at the end of the table between her grandmother and mother. In front of her, they placed a plate and a glass of compote. She sat with a strained smile that looked too unnatural on her face, but the girl was trying to show joy as best she could. Her mother seemed to notice this. "Are you mocking me?" she whispered. The smile instantly disappeared from Tamara's face. Once again, she was doing something wrong, but genuinely couldn't understand what exactly. "You asked me to make my face simpler," she replied in surprise for the first time in the past hour. "I don't understand what you want. I asked you to make your face simpler, not to put on a performance. It's Aunt Nina's birthday. Can't you be happy for people?" "No wonder, Misha, don't you? What boy would like that?" The words hit the girl like a punch in the stomach. She flinched and lowered her head, trying to hide the tears in her eyes. Everyone around her wanted her to behave in a certain way, to feel what they wished, to do what they wished, but no one asked what she wanted or felt herself. Unable to hold back, Toma sobbed. "What's wrong?" Aunt Nina asked. "Don't pay any attention." Her mother began smoothing over the situation. "She had a fight with a boy, so she's been whining all day. She has that trendy illness, what's it called? Depression. Oh, don't shed tears over such nonsense. You should be thinking about school, not boys." And Nina began to lecture. Toma learned another important life lesson. She had to think about what adults told her to think about. Unfortunately, she found this difficult. Her thoughts kept drifting back to Misha's last message. We're Breaking Up played in her mind like a funeral dirge, and to its sounds, inaudible to others, she watched her grandmother slicing sausage, her grandfather smoking, her mother pretending to be a sweet and kind woman with the virtuosity of a born actress, and Aunt Nina starting her favorite speech, "Young people today, for nothing. We dreamed of becoming engineers, doctors, teachers, were interested in art, and strove to get straight A's." Aunt Nina was the type of person who placed her age and lost past on a pedestal. She preferred to condemn everything new and young, praising the old and bygone by contrast. In her view, today's teenagers are interested in nothing but computers and have no future, because they understand neither science nor art. On the surface, Aunt Nina seemed like an old intellectual, but if you looked closer, you'd find she knew only Tchaikovsky among composers, had a standard set of writer names, didn't know any foreign languages, and had no higher education. Once, Toma caught Aunt Nina unable to even roughly retell the content of Pushkin's The Captain's Daughter or Lermontov's A Hero of Our Time, to which she took great offense and called her grandniece an ill-mannered bore. Toma found out she only knew Tchaikovsky by accident when she once played some schnicky pieces on her phone. When Aunt Nina asked who the composer was, Toma told her the name, only to hear that all those Germans were nothing compared to their Russian Tchaikovsky. The granddaughter corrected her, saying that Schnitzky was a Soviet composer, which again offended the woman. Aunt Nina didn't recognize Glinka, Mussorgsky, or Rachmaninoff either, after which she dismissed the girl, saying not to distract her from her tasks. At the same time, Toma suffered from a lack of musical education. As a child, she dreamed of playing the violin and even attended music school, but for piano class. One day, an incident occurred during a lesson, which forced her to quit music lessons. The teacher preferred to impart knowledge solely through intimidation, turning the lessons into a nightmare. She would insult and hit the girl on the fingers in case of mistakes. One day, she yelled terribly at Toma for not completing her homework, driving her into an uncontrollable fit of hysteria. The girl ran away from the lesson and cried in the park for several hours, after which she developed a fever. Her mother then went to apologize for her incompetent daughter, and even made Toma apologize for running away. But further lessons were put into question. Unfortunately, Toma stopped distinguishing halftones and clearly hearing notes, which led to her quick departure from music school and her mother's lamentations, as she herself had dreamed of becoming a pianist. In her opinion, her daughter was simply lazy. Her musical career was put to rest. Toma could neither sing or play an instrument, which saddened her greatly. Whenever she tried to perform something, her mother would throw in a phrase, "Ooh, off key, shut up," cutting her to the core. Nevertheless, the girl continued to understand and love music. Toma excelled in 3 disciplines: literature, painting, and music. There she could escape from reality. She knew all of Beethoven's symphonies and could identify them from the first notes, knew Mozart, Bach, and Chopin well, and loved Tchaikovsky, whom Aunt Nina adored, and Rimsky-Korsakov. She was also quite knowledgeable about modern music, but mainly preferred rock and metal. However, despite all her knowledge, she remained a foolish, unintelligent youth in the eyes of her experienced aunt. "Get up and help your grandmother slice the cucumbers," her mother ordered. "Oh, great idea," Aunt Nina chimed in. "Work is the perfect cure for all your so-called depressions. It's all from idleness. In my childhood, no one suffered from any depressions. No one was sad. Everyone worked." Toma smirked crookily as she got up. Once, she watched a documentary about mental illnesses in the Soviet Union. schizophrenia in all its manifestations, depressive disorder, everything was shown in that film. Apparently, she thought, Aunt Nina's childhood took place in some other, imaginary country, not in the USSR, where normal people lived. Tamara didn't hold any animosity toward her country's past. She even loved Soviet aesthetics, music, and literature, and agreed that people were very educated back then. It's just that Aunt Nina didn't belong to those people, but desperately wanted to seem like them, and that angered Toma. Under the birthday girl's ramblings, cucumbers, tomatoes, cheese, sausage, and red peppers were finally sliced, and Toma sat back in her place. She had neither the mood nor the appetite, and it would have been better if she had run away from home during the day, honestly. The festive procedure began, with salads, cutlets, and vegetables being eaten at the table, and Toma becoming the subject of discussion. "What are you reading, Tamara?" her grandmother asked between bites. "I saw you arrived with a book, Poor Folk by Dostoevsky," her granddaughter replied tonelessly. "I don't like Dostoevsky. He's too gloomy and heavy," her grandmother said, putting a piece of cutlet in her mouth. "Yeah, just like my whole life," muttered Toma, and instantly regretted it. "What do you mean your life is hard?" Her mother's voice struck like an axe. "Everyone would wish for a life like yours." Back in the 90s, Toma tuned out. The same old story, how hard it was in the 90s, and how great everything is now. Sometimes she felt like people were proud of their past sufferings and wanted everyone else to experience the same, so they could understand how truly hard life can be. She remembered a meme about a woman with a candy bob hairstyle. How did it go? She strained her memory. "I went through the Afghan war, and I wish all men would go through it. It's the same here. I survived the 90s, and I wish everyone else would too." Having missed most of the discussion about past hardships, Toma returned her thoughts to the present and realized she had jumped from the frying pan into the fire. The TV was showing a concert with children performing. A 12-year-old girl was singing, and the relatives were audibly admiring her talent. "What a pure voice," said Grandma. "Such a smart girl." Tana's chin trembled. If it weren't for that teacher, she could be singing on stage now too. At that moment, Aunt Nina turned to her and said, "Do you like how she sings? Listen up. You can't do that." Toma clattered her fork onto the plate, abruptly stood up from the table, and swiftly left the kitchen, ignoring the calls after her. Rushing to the second floor, she slammed the door, locked it, and sat under the window, hugging her knees. She heard footsteps and knew it was her mother. Then there was a knock on the door, but by then, Toma had plugged her ears with headphones, turned up the volume of Linkin Park's Runaway, and barely heard what her mother was saying. But she could guess. "Don't embarrass me. Come down and apologize. When we get home, you'll get it," and so on. Resting her face on her knees, the girl burst into tears. For the first time in a long time, she felt her emotions were finally appropriate. "If I could, I would hug you." A voice came from nowhere, as if from the depths of her consciousness. Toma lifted her head and took out her headphones, the music still pounding. "You can't see me. Unfortunately, I'm incorporeal," said the velvety voice. Who's there?" she asked fearfully, getting up from the floor. "I've always been here, but I'm here because of you," the voice replied. "I'll call my mom," Toma threatened, looking around warily. "She can't see or hear me. I'm here only because of you and only for you." "What do you mean?" "I came when I heard the call of your unfulfilled desires. I have followed you everywhere, but only now could I speak. Nothing can describe the weight of my waiting. I dreamed you could hear me." Toma still didn't understand where the voice was coming from. She peered into the darkness, looked under the bed, then into the closet, and opened each drawer of the dresser. I'm incorporeal, Tamara. The voice spoke again, and she heard such piercing sorrow in it that it made her chest ache. Are you a figment of my imagination? She asked. No. Well, yes, but not specifically yours. I have existed for many thousands of years. Since the dawn of human consciousness, I've roamed this world as a bodiless entity, seeking the one who will allow me to transform and become corporeal. I only need a kind person. Once I heard you. Your consciousness called out to me, as it did to many before you, and I came, but I couldn't speak with you. And now, finally, it's happening. Today is a special day. What's your name? Toma stopped turning her head and sat on the bed. Whatever you wish, the voice replied. Lines from her favorite poem came to her mind. Then I'll call you Demon, the girl decided, unable to come up with another name for the speaking darkness. I'll be called Demon if you wish. So, you can become material. I can, if you wish again. But you must create a form for me. Without you, I will remain immaterial. But I believe you're the one who can give me shape, like creating a pet or a character. Toma smirked. She closed her eyes and focused her imagination. She pictured no face from Miyazaki's animation, but with a different mask and form that would be perfect for the demon. When she opened her eyes, a translucent black creature with a mask resembling the face of an ancient Russian idol stood before her. The demon hovered in the air. He had no legs, and his body dissolved near the floor. I dreamed of touching you, Toma, he said so tremulously and softly that it squeezed the girl's heart. Too long to touch, but not have the opportunity. Something similar she experienced today, looking at Misha, who ceased to exist for her. The demon reached out his hand. She placed her palm in his. It felt like touching cool water encased in a thin glove. Can I help you? The demon asked gently. With what? Toma frowned. Your relatives. They don't see that you're hurting. They don't understand it. Can I help you? I don't think so. The girl covered her face with her free hand and sighed. Then tell me everything that's on your mind. I'll listen to you as much as you want. The demon sat down next to her and hugged her with one arm. Can I tell you everything? Tamara decided to clarify, tears welling up in her eyes again. Absolutely everything, because I'm your friend, and you won't judge me. Tears rolled down the girl's cheeks. Never. The demon replied tenderly. True friends don't judge, even if I cry. Toma sniffed, wiping the hot streams with her sleeve. Cry as much as you want. You can just cry and say nothing. I'm here. After crying her heart out, Toma felt lighter. The demon was silent, sitting still beside her. She sank into his cool body, as if in water that didn't wet. No one has ever sat with me like this, she shared. Now you have me, the demon replied. It feels like you understand me very well. Yes, I understand you. I know the music you love, the writers, and the artists. Mom thinks I'm fussing over nothing. She's wrong, of course. The demon shook his head. I wouldn't say that the paintings of the Wanderers are nothing, and Mozart's compositions don't seem like nonsense to me either. I even saw that composer once. How? Tamara was amazed. Seriously, seriously, seriously. I've existed for many years. I've seen Mozart and Beethoven. I witnessed Mayakovsky's suicide, and Essinen's Black Man. Part of it was about me. He didn't see me, but he felt my presence on special days. Wow. Tell me, what happened to all of them after death? It depends on the type of death. Some went one way, others went another. But with those who took their own lives, I was even able to spend some time. You can't be serious, exclaimed Toma. And you communicated with each of them, saw each one. I saw. They were brilliant people, but their souls, although open, remained a mystery. No one could fully understand them. In that, you're like them. They talked for a long time about the geniuses of the past. Outside, the moon had already risen, casting its silvery light on the treetops. Toma looked out the window. From childhood memories, the grandmother's prohibition on going into this forest alone burst forth. Supposedly, there lived a terrible monster that kidnapped people and ate them. There was some local legend or just an ordinary scary tale about it. No, this forest monster wasn't scary at all. On the contrary, the girl had never conversed with anyone so easily and openly. They slandered the poor thing. He's so clever, much smarter than Aunt Nina. You know, you're better than all my friends. Even better than Misha, confessed Toma. Misha behaved despicably, but if he truly loved you, he wouldn't have left. Toma had to agree with him. She often saw in books or TV series that true love endures, despite everything. Either works of art lie, but if it's like that, then the whole world is irreversibly mired in lies. Well then, I'll be friends with you, said Toma. I'm happy to hear that. His voice intoxicated her. She was ready to listen to that baritone forever. And will you come often? As often as you wish, the girl pondered. It would be strange if her mom, entering her room, found a huge monster there, and she couldn't take him to school either. Suddenly, a strange thought occurred to her. What if she just forgets about them, her mom, school, and all those unreliable friends? And where do you live, demon friend? I belong to another world, said the demon. Everything is very different there. But can one get there? You can, he answered after some thought. But the road there is one way. People go there and never return. But there's Essenen. I hope Lermontov is there too. Instantly highlighted Thomas' pluses. Take me with you, she firmly asked, wiping away the last hair. The demon seemed to have been waiting for just that. He swooped off the bed and landed in front of the girl, handing her a small jar. To get there, you need to swallow a special pill. Then you must walk, looking only forward, and not look back. Without hesitation, Toma grabbed the jar, unscrewed the lid, and swallowed its contents. Soon she felt a pleasant numbness all over her body. And then she felt almost weightless. Let's go. The demon pulled her along. They leapt out of the window onto the street. At first, Toma was afraid she would break her legs, but contrary to expectations, she landed lightly, as if jumping not from the second floor but from a stall. A fat grandmother's cat dashed away from them with a wild screech, cowering under the steps at the doorstep and hissing, fluffing up its fur. It seems like cats don't like you very much, Toma chuckled. They climbed over the fence and found themselves on the edge of the forest. It looked nothing like usual. The trees seemed blacker and much taller, like in a darkened painting by Bocklin, Isle of the Dead. The forest seemed submerged in water. Sounds resembling quail songs drifted from there. The treetops swayed slowly and sinuously, and not a single star shone in the sky above them. The demon led Toma straight into this forest, and she kept looking around. The world became different, atypical. She desperately wanted to turn around to see the village and its houses in a new outline. Carefully, slightly lagging behind her new friend, she glanced over her shoulder. There was no village. Instead, on a huge field, bright spots undulated, resembling silvery bonfires more than people, and for some reason, a white sun shone above the field. However, this did not scare or upset Toma. She quickened her pace and took the demon's hand. Together, they walked further and further into the dark forest. Underfoot, colorless grass swayed like seaweed. The trees stood evenly, as if someone intentionally planted an alley here. Fireflies glided smoothly between the trunks and flickered in the strange air like reflections on the water surface. From the darkness ahead, A chill emanated. "What place is this?" Toma finally asked. "The border world," replied the demon. "The border between what?" "Between my world and the one you left." They stopped. Before Toma loomed a huge black hole, its edges woven from any branches with thorns and sharp leaves. "So, I've left the world of humans?" the girl asked. "Yes, you left voluntarily," replied the motionless mask, the only relatively bright spot. "Does it matter whether a person leaves voluntarily or not?" Toma inquired. "Yes," the demon affirmed again. "When a person enters the border world involuntarily, they go to a place we call the Ocean of Souls. But when someone comes here voluntarily, they never end up in the ocean." "What is the Ocean of Souls?" "It's a place that cannot even be called that, yet it exists in the non-material plane. In a sense, we call the border world a small basin of the ocean. Every soul comes out of there and goes there in its own time. It's in a way one large unified soul dissolved in eternity, but the path there is only open for involuntary departure as compensation for the lack of choice, to leave or not to leave the world of humans." "And where do those who come to the border world voluntarily end up?" "In the void." Silence fell. The demon hung before Toma as a formless cloud with an immobile mask, waiting. "What is the void?" the girl asked. "It's the absence of the ocean." "And what happens to those who end up there?" "Those who end up in the void will never become part of the ocean. They just won't. They'll cease to be in every sense. Those who get stuck in the border world will also decay one day and go to the void." "You came from this void?" "Yes, that's my home." Silence again. "And what happens next?" Toma persisted, her gaze fixed on the black hole. "Nothing will be there. In the void, no one suffers from feelings. They don't exist there, just as existence doesn't. The void is nowhere, nothing, and never. It's the ultimate concentration of the absence of everything. And I won't be there either. You won't be in this transient world." Toma frowned. It was unclear why she suddenly felt indecisive, although the absence of any prospects was more attractive to her at the moment than their presence. "So, there are no souls in the void. There will only be me there," the demon whispered convincingly. "And you with me. Only you will I be able to guide through the void." "But why only me?" "You are able to give me a body, so you will be able to find yourself in the void." "What will happen to my soul?" "Your soul will remain with me. There is nothing in the void, everything disappears there. But it's my home, and I want to take you there. I will be the mistress of the void, just like you are the master of the house." The girl perked up. "Yes," the demon affirmed with hints of joy. "But you will cease to exist. You won't have a soul. It will become the void. A complete void, like those who went to the ocean." "No, completely the opposite. They are part of the ocean, and you will be the void itself. But there won't be a soul," Toma added firmly. "There won't be, because the soul is a feeling entity. There are no feelings in the void. There is nothing there," the demon reminded. "The girl who became nobody," Toma smirked. "I will become what does not exist. I will reign over minus infinity." Ultimately, she didn't care what awaited her beyond this tunnel's threshold. If there are no feelings there, then there are no daily sufferings. And there is also no mother, Misha, or Ansnina. At least for that, it was worth going there. The bubbling sounds echoed through the dense space of the black forest. "Are you still with me?" the demon clarified. Toma sternly raised her eyebrows and looked hostilely over her shoulder at the path they had taken. "I'd rather cease to exist than return back again. I don't want to feel, and I don't want to exist. You agree?" "Yes, take me to the void. Then let's go." And the demon pulled her hand into the tunnel. Before Toma could take a step, she suddenly felt a strong pull backward. The space distorted as if being sucked into a giant vacuum cleaner. A bright beam pierced the darkness of the forest, forcefully dragging the girl along. Confused, she panicked, flailing her arms and legs. "What's happening?" Tamara cried out as she saw the avenue of trees swiftly receding. From the darkness of the forest, where an unknown being was carrying her away, something dreadful, hairy, shapeless emerged, making Toma shudder with horror. "Stop!" thundered a menacing, unrecognizable roar. "I won't give her up. She's mine. Mine." Tamara clenched, praying for whatever was pulling her back to do so as quickly and as far away from this monster as possible. A flash, another one. A bright bolt of lightning struck the black mass, tearing it into small pieces. "Silence. Please, be gentle with her," came a polite voice from the side. As if through thin glass, Toma opened her eyes. White walls, a ceiling just like that, some person in a white coat in front of her mother, nausea in her stomach, a headache exacerbated by the buzzing sounds from the left. The girl vaguely remembered taking some jar left on the bedside table and swallowing its contents. Her mother probably entered the room via the staircase, through the open window, hearing the sound of the fall or seeing her daughter through the keyhole. They called an ambulance. The doctors took the girl and brought her back to life. Everything was wrong in this situation, just like in this cursed day from the very beginning. Toma recalled her visions, and if she had the strength, she would have slapped herself in the forehead. "God, what's with this demon? Am I going crazy?" she thought, although deep down, she envied the eponymous character from Lermontov's poem. At least she made it to heaven. In response to the doctor's words, her mother's voice sounded unnaturally polite. "Of course, doctor, of course. May I have a moment alone with her?" The door slammed shut. Toma cursed everything, imagining what would happen next. "You've completely lost it," the woman roared, bending down to her daughter. "What's with these antics? Why on earth did you swallow pills? Are you completely insane? What were you trying to prove? Ruin Aunt Nina's celebration? Or mine? Are you aware that you terrified your grandmother half to death? Selfish." It took Toma a moment to recover from such an onslaught. "I almost died. And all you care about is me ruining the celebration?" the daughter asked incredulously, writing off any possibility of ever reaching mutual understanding. "So, you did it on purpose, huh? Take yourself away then. Maybe you'll jump out of the window next time. That's your gratitude to those who raised you. Thank you, darling. Very much appreciated," the mother ranted, putting her hands on her hips. "I'll gladly do it again," muttered Toma, turning away to the window, where the night was darkening. Her mother kept saying something to her, scolding, making some arguments. Her daughter didn't listen. She stared out the window, contemplating a new lesson. Life sometimes teaches nothing, especially adults. There are people who consider themselves right in everything with unshakable self-confidence, and children are always to blame and always inconvenient. A child must be convenient, otherwise they will be devoured without even bothering to teach them how to deal with their feelings. Somewhere deep in her head, a desperate and enticing voice echoed, "Just wait. I'll definitely take you to the void." Thank you for taking the time to listen to this captivating story. I hope it sparked your interest and brought you enjoyment. If so, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. But that's not all. Many more exciting tales and captivating stories await you, so stay tuned for new emotions and experiences with us.